Have you ever been treated like hired help by your own family and smiled through it because you didn't want to make it a thing? I did, for 3 years, until one Thanksgiving list changed everything. My name is Eleanor Higgins, 61 years old, retired teacher, and this is the story of the year I stopped showing up to be used. If this sounds familiar, hit like and subscribe. You're not alone, and neither was I. I taught 3rd grade for 29 years at Cedar Ridge Elementary. Same room, same chalk dust, same small hands raised every morning. I know how to hold a room of 28 without losing control of it. My husband, Walter, spent 35 years in construction. Site supervisor, steel frame towers, bridges, steady hands, quiet man. He built things that outlasted the people who paid for them. I built something too. 29 years of 8-year-olds who could read by June. A marriage that still felt like a conversation, 31 years in. A son, Nathan, 32, an engineer, married 3 years to a sharp, capable young woman named Vanessa. I liked Vanessa at first. Organized, driven. The problem was that her plans always seemed to include what I should be doing, phrased in a way that left no room to say no. It started small. Her birthday, 14 months into the marriage. A text. Mom, we're doing a low-key dinner Saturday. Your pot roast would be perfect. Not a question. An assignment. Already dressed and waiting at my door. I made the pot roast. Nobody thanked me. She posted the table online. The pot roast wasn't in the photo. Walter wanted to say something. I told him not to make it a thing. I should have let him. Tuesday evening, my phone buzzed. I read it standing in the kitchen, and I didn't move for a long moment. 2 turkeys, combined weight over 20 pounds, stuffing from scratch, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, fresh cranberry sauce, not canned, homemade rolls, gravy, pecan pie, pumpkin pie, a cheese board for arrivals, 14 dishes, 28 guests, start time, 5 a.m. Underneath it, one line, kitchen is yours. Not our kitchen, not would you mind. A vendor confirmation. That's what I was being treated as, a vendor. Walter came in from the living room and saw my face. What is it? I handed him the phone and watched him read it twice. I'll call Nathan, he said. No, I said. Let me handle it. I texted back, that's a lot for one person. Can we split some dishes? Her reply came in under 2 minutes. Mom, you're so much better at this than any of us. We'll handle everything else. I set the phone face down. I didn't say another word that night. I was already thinking. 2 Sundays before Thanksgiving, Nathan had us over. Pizza night, nothing Vanessa cooked. I noticed that, filed it away. I found a quiet moment and tried again. Maybe Jenna could take a couple of the sides. Or we order the pies. Vanessa laughed, warm on the surface, immovable underneath. Mom, that's literally what you're good at. Don't overthink it. Nathan looked at his pizza, said nothing. I raised that boy to speak up for people at his table. Somewhere along the way, he'd learned it was easier not to. On the drive home, Walter said, that's not happening. I looked out the window at the streetlights going by. 28 people, alone, 5 in the morning. Then I smiled, because I'd already decided. I have a plan. He glanced over. What plan? You'll see. That night I called Corinne Beaumont, Corey, my college roommate. 31 years of friendship that never needed maintaining, just picking back up. She'd retired to Savannah, Georgia, into a pale yellow house on a quiet square under live oaks and Spanish moss, 3 blocks from the river. Corey, I said. What are you doing for Thanksgiving? Nothing that can't include you, she said. What's going on? I told her everything. She didn't gasp or sympathize the way people do when they secretly think you should just cook the turkey. She said, book your flight, Ellie. I'll have the she-crab soup ready. I hung up and felt something settle in my chest for the first time in 3 weeks. I found a 6:10 a.m. flight out of Pittsburgh on Thanksgiving morning. 2 tickets to Savannah/Hilton Head. I paid for them myself before I told Walter the details, because I needed this decision to be entirely mine before it became ours. Then I told him. He didn't hesitate. I'm in. Monday. Reminder, rolls have to be homemade. The frozen kind tastes like cardboard, lol. Wednesday. Scratch pie crust, please. Found a tutorial if you need it. Friday. One more thing. Preston and Diane are joining. I want everything elevated. Preston and Diane. New names. Nathan's boss, I told Walter, and his wife. I sat with that a long moment. This was never a family dinner. It was a professional stage, and I was the crew being hired without a contract, without pay, without so much as a thank you. 8 days before Thanksgiving, I drove to Nathan's to drop off a spare key. The door was unlocked. I stepped in to leave it on the counter and heard Vanessa upstairs on the phone. Preston is definitely coming. Him and Diane plus the Whitcombs from the firm. I need to look amazing. Mom's handling all the food, so that part's covered. Like I was a line item. I drove home shaking, more from clarity than anger, and in the kitchen telling Walter, something in his face changed. Not anger, something older, like a memory surfacing. "Preston," he said slowly. "Cole. Brennan and Cole. What about it?" 31 years ago, I supervised a 6-story build on the riverfront, Cole Tower. The founder, Arthur Cole, shook my hand at the topping out ceremony, told me he wouldn't forget it. I stared at him. Preston Cole is his son? Must be. I sat down slowly. Nathan worked, every single day, inside a building his own father had built, and neither of our children knew it. I didn't tell Vanessa. Some cards you hold until the moment does the work for you. I'd tried once already and gotten nowhere. This time I didn't ask Walter to do it. I picked up the phone myself. "Nathan." I was handed a 14-dish list for 28 people, alone, 5 a.m. start. "I told you it was too much. You told me to manage it anyway. I need you to fix this." "Mom, Vanessa's already got everything. I'm telling you clearly, and I am only going to say it once. I am not catering your wife's networking dinner. Figure it out, Nathan." Silence. Then, "I think you're overreacting. Good night," I said, and hung up. I stood in the kitchen a long moment. Then I walked to the hall closet and pulled down my suitcase. I found my apron hanging inside the pantry door, navy canvas. A flour stain near the pocket neither of us had ever gotten around to washing out. 30 years of Saturday pancakes. Walter behind me, handing me things, making me laugh at nothing. That was the part Vanessa never understood. It was never the labor. It was that someone stood beside me while I did it. I folded the apron and hung it back on its hook. It didn't need Savannah. It belonged right here, and it wasn't going anywhere near this Thanksgiving. I sat at the kitchen table with a legal pad and wrote 4 sentences I'd already composed in my head days earlier. "Nathan, I love you. That hasn't changed. But I cannot cook Thanksgiving for 28 people alone. I said so, and no one heard me. We're with Corey. Back Sunday. Kitchen is yours. Mom and Dad." I set a juice glass on top, holding the note down like a decision that needed weight to stay put. "We're going to hear about this," Walter said, watching me. "Yes," I said, "and I'm ready." "How long have you been ready?" 2 weeks, I said. "I just needed the tickets first." The Pittsburgh airport at 4:30 a.m. felt like it belonged to no particular day. Bad coffee. 3 unread texts from Vanessa I didn't open. At 6:10, wheels up. Walter put his hand over mine. Neither of us needed to say anything. Corey met us at Savannah/Hilton Head with real coffee and no dramatic reaction. Exactly what 31 years of friendship gives you. "You came," she said. "Did you doubt it?" We drove into the historic district with the windows cracked, warm air and jasmine, oak leaves whispering over cobblestone. Corey's house was pale yellow with a wraparound porch and a fat orange cat named Butter, who opened one eye at us and went back to sleep. We sat on the porch. A tugboat moved slow on the river. Somewhere down the block, something was frying that smelled like a different, gentler life. My phone lit up. Nathan, Vanessa, then Jenna. I turned it face down and didn't touch it again until evening. "It won't stop," Corey said. "It'll stop when it stops," I said. "I'm not available today. I decided that 3 weeks ago." Nathan told me the rest later, in pieces, none of them easy for him to say. Vanessa came downstairs in a new linen apron, bought for a photo already composed in her head. Golden light, flowers on the counter, the beginning of something spectacular. The kitchen was dark, no turkey, no prep, just a glass on the table and a folded yellow note underneath it. She read it standing up. Didn't move for 30 seconds. By 9 a.m., Nathan had called 4 restaurants, booked solid, or needing 72 hours notice. He drove to the grocery store. The turkey aisle, a full wall 2 weeks earlier, was down to 3 frozen birds, none safe to thaw in time. He came home with 4 rotisserie chickens, instant mashed potatoes, frozen dinner rolls, a dented bakery pumpkin pie, and a wedge of brie he remembered at the last second, because Vanessa had mentioned a cheese board. Precisely on time, the punctuality of people who've already decided how long they intend to stay. The table looked beautiful. Vanessa always did have an eye for that. Then the food came out. 4 rotisserie chickens on good china. Gray-tinted instant potatoes under candlelight. "Last-minute change of plans," Vanessa said. "My in-laws weren't feeling well." Preston Cole nodded politely and said nothing. Later, Diane Cole asked Nathan gently, "Your mother usually cooks, doesn't she? Everything all right?" "Family thing came up," Nathan said. "True, depending on how you defined came up." Preston went quiet through most of the meal. Then, almost to himself, "Higgins. That name's familiar. My father built our headquarters with a site supervisor named Higgins. Best crew he ever had. Any relation?" Nathan didn't answer right away. "That's my mother's husband," he said. "My dad, Preston set down his fork. Your father built Cole Tower? The table went quiet in a different way than before. We flew home Sunday afternoon into gray Pittsburgh cold. Nathan was sitting on our porch steps when we pulled in. Not his house, ours. He'd driven 40 minutes without calling ahead, which told me he'd thought about it long enough to know a phone call wouldn't cut it. Vanessa didn't come, he said. Okay, I said, and sat down across from him at the kitchen table where I'd raised him. I knew it was too much, Mom. I said nothing. I let her treat you both like furniture that would just be there. It wasn't okay, I said. I didn't soften it for him. I'd spent 3 weeks having it softened for everyone else. Preston told me about the building, he said quietly. Asked why I never mentioned it. I didn't even know, Mom. 20 years and I didn't know Dad built the place I work in. You never asked, I said. And we never made you feel it mattered. It matters, he said. Preston said his father talked about Dad for years. Said he was the reason that project came in safe, on time, right. And I stood in my own kitchen Thanksgiving morning serving him grocery store chicken, not knowing my own father built the roof over his head. I put my hand over his on the table. I love you, I said. That was never in question. But I will not disappear into someone else's convenience. Not even yours. Not ever again. I hear you, Nathan said. Good, I said, and got up to pour the tea. Not Nathan's phone. Walter's. He came and found me after, sat across from me with a look I hadn't seen on him in years, something between pride and disbelief. Preston wants to take me to dinner, he said. Said his father spoke about me until the day he passed. Go, I said. You've earned a dinner. 2 weeks later, Walter came home from that steakhouse lighter than I'd seen him in months. They hadn't talked about Thanksgiving once, he told me. Just steel tolerances. A flood from 1994. Arthur Cole's terrible jokes. I didn't call Vanessa to tell her. I didn't need to. These things travel through a company faster than anyone expects. Vanessa called me that week. I want you to know what you did was hurtful, she said. I understand it felt that way, I said, calm, the same voice I used with 28-year-old parents and 8-year-old children alike. And I'd like you to understand something too. A 14-item list isn't an invitation. It's a work order. We can talk about this honestly, or we can leave it here. That's your choice, not mine. Silence. Then she hung up. She called back 3 days later, talked less, listened more. No grand apology, just questions. For the first time in 3 years, instead of instructions. That was the opening I'd been waiting for, whether I'd admitted it to myself or not. Vanessa and I talk now. Real conversations, not instructions. Walter put on the navy apron with the old flour stain last Saturday and made pancakes. Just for the two of us. No Nathan, no Vanessa, no Thanksgiving to argue about. We just had breakfast, and it was enough. But there's one more call I haven't told you about yet. The one from Preston Cole's father's old business partner, 3 months later, that changed how Nathan saw his own career entirely. That's a story for another day. Have you ever set a boundary that felt like a risk, and then felt immediately right the second you did it? Tell me in the comments, and stay close, because part 2 is coming.